morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
I have at times pondered on what horses could tell us if they could talk, but today, Baxter Black will take that concept a step further.
As I tuned into the conversation, I realized it was the steers talking to one another, and they were discussing the ropers.
On the Rangeland News, the North American Free Trade Agreement is no more, but you'll hear from some key players involved in what we could call the new NAFTA.
Mexico's Ag Secretary Victor Villalobos, Canada's Ag Minister Lawrence McCauley, and U.S. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue all on stage
for the Rangeland News. And the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file looks at a cowboy who unloads his horse from the trailer, jumps on and spurs him into a gallop without any warm-up. And how does he get away with that? There's a long-lost classic song of the West, a good piece of cowboy poetry, and in case you haven't heard, we have the complete list of trainers who will be at the Trainers Challenge at the Red Deer main event. And today, you'll hear from one of them.
I want to be able to ride colts when I'm 85 years old. You know, I want to still have enough feel, timing, and balance to be able to ride colts when I'm in my golden years.
That's Cardston horseman Rod Olson, and you'll enjoy his insight into horse training and some of his adventure stories. And we're going to start things off with one from a brand new Ryan Fritz release, and I guess a lot of us have been there and done this.
Cow on a mission, looking for a draw. She's the latest addition to the list of outlaws. Well, she out with 3 cowboys, and she beat up 1 cow dog. Cow on a mission, looking for a draw. Well, she's a bag of leather, her insides are raw. She just dropped her new calf while still packing last fall's. And 6 foot of Rieta is swinging from her horns. Cow on a mission, looking for a draw. Oh, she's the kind that makes a cowboy cuss. She takes a bush and she likes to hook. She'll really test your salt. And just the same, you ran all day, having yourself a ball. Cow on a mission, looking for a draw. 1 bad eye and 3 good legs. She lives on pine needles and a little sage, but she can smell a cowboy from at least a mile off. Cow on a mission, looking for a draw. You got your best horse, you're backing 2 ropes. Your meanest cow dog, oh, this time she's yours. But she swam that muddy river, now she's gone for another fall. Cow on a mission, running up the draw. Yeehaw. Oh, she's the kind that makes a cowboy cuss. Booey! She takes the bush and she likes to hook. She'll really test your salt. And just the same, you ran all day, having yourself a ball. Cow on a mission, looking for a draw. She's a cow on a mission, she'll outlast us all. There she goes.
Yeah, I love that ending, and that's the kind you might want to keep replacement heifers from. Eh? Well, the first time I met Rod Olson, he was starting colts at the Ivan Danes Country Music Picnic a few years back, and I was impressed. And Rod is the 2011-2013 winner of that Colt Breaking Challenge, as well as the 2014 winner of the Rocking Heart Ranch Colt Starting Competition. And the year after that, he had the privilege of judging the whole thing. In 2017, he won the Horse 3 NAERIC Trainers Challenge in Brandon, Manitoba. And he will be joining two other top hands at the Red Deer Main Event Trainers Challenge. They are past winner Cade Mills and past winner Dale Clearwater. And a while back, I had a nice chance to visit with Rod Olson.
The history of the place you're on, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, my great-grandfather come up from Utah back in the in the late 1800s, I guess, and settled there. And then, so I'm fourth generation on my place. My dad was a trainer and did a lot of training. He taught horsemanship at the Lethbridge Community College.
Right, when they had that horsemanship program there.
Yeah, equestrian team, and he had about 14 black horses and just all girls, and they went around all the horse shows and parades and promoted the school that way. And then he wanted to get another trainer in to kind of help out a little bit and just do some clinics. And so they stuck him on to Ray Hunt, and so
Really?
Ray come up, and that was the first time Ray had ever been to Canada.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so my dad got to know him pretty good, and then went down and rode with him in California, and that's kind of where his training, like more of a professional training career, started. And by the time I was even 5 and 6, 7, me and my older brother, we were breaking ponies to ride, and just went from there. And then as soon as we got a little older, he would stick us on whatever come through the barn.
Man, oh man.
It was fun. Yeah.
Any special things you remember him telling you when you were starting these young horses, when you were so young?
Oh, just big thing is just be patient. Be patient. It'll happen. And you don't have to make it happen. It'll happen. Just let it happen. Be patient and look for a feel. That's his biggest thing, was look for a feel.
Wow.
And it didn't matter what we were riding, what breed of horse we were riding. We rode a lot of different, mostly quarter horses. We get a lot of older horses off the reserve that had been played with a little bit, messed with, and they were pretty wild. Kick at you and try to chase you out of the pen, and he'd rope behind leg on them. And I'd get him saddled up and crawl on him like that.
Wow. That's a bit of a Ray Hunt thing, too. In a way,
was,
wasn't
yeah.
it? Like
Well,
he used to do
that's
that.
where Dad learned it from, was Ray.
Yeah. And it seems to me like I had a chance to ride with Ray one time, and it didn't happen. Larry and Bev Ramstead used to bring him up to the gang ranch for a colt starting session with all the gang ranch cowboys every year, and that was really something. And the day after the clinic, Ray'd go out with him, and they'd move a bunch of cattle. Oh. And Bev phoned and said, Larry said that you should bring your horse and come up and you can ride with Larry and Ray Hunt. And I had something going on, and I couldn't get there. Oh man, I always regretted missing that chance. And I met him one other time. Larry Nellis had him to his place in Revelstoke and watched the whole clinic and everything, and then was visiting with Ray and Larry, and Ray was telling some great stories. So I said, Ray, would you mind if I got my recorder out, recorded some of these stories? And his response was, I'm not talking into no blankety blank microphone. And end of interview. So he wouldn't do it. But gosh, the stories about Ray are legend.
He is. He's a real legend.
And we'll talk about good horses and how the West is changing with Rod Olson when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Rod Olson has seen a lot of miles from the back of a horse and covered a lot of country on green colts.
With what you've done, is it always starting colts, or have you worked into professional or into performance training? And,
we've showed a few reiners and barrel horses and stuff like that, but mostly just starting colts. Yeah, I like to start colts, and it's always a challenge, and it's fun, and you see so much progression in that first 30 to 60 days. But we do have a few that we take on a little bit further and try to get them shown in something, rope on them a little bit or whatever.
What's the country like around there? Is there lots of trails, lots of open country, some bush, some timber?
We're starting to get pushed out by the city a little bit. The city people,
of Cardston?
Well, city of Calgary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the city. A lot of people from Calgary going down there and buying little acreages and fields that were open for the last 150 years since people were there are starting to get padlocked shut, and But most people are really respectful of us, and as a matter of fact, they enjoy seeing me come riding through their place on a horse, and they come out and wave, and they're friendly. They're good people.
Yeah.
But it is sad to see great big pastures get broke up into small acreages. And
did you get to ride on some of those big pastures, working cattle?
yeah, the neighbors that run cattle on there, they'd always get me to come help them round up and stuff, and it's always a good time. Go to brandings, local brandings and stuff like that. We always take a colt or two, and it gives them a good opportunity to learn.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, that's what they say. Cows have two purposes: eating and training horses.
Exactly. That's why we've had cattle in our lives mostly. I mean, I love having cows around, but the main reason is I had something to work my horses with.
Right.
And we're lucky where we live. There's still, well, the 170 ranch is up to 1,700 cows now, and their range pretty much surrounds our place. And a couple of neighbors and I have ridden together for 40 years almost, and we've been kind of recruited to look after those cows. So it's pretty special that we can still go out and do that and move 200 or 300 cows, you know, a long ways, and only open one gate to go through there.
That's amazing. There's not many of them pastures left.
No, in a lot of places. And part of the country is different. I know I took a long ride the other day on a young horse over the Lion's Head Range that my wife and I looked after for 25 years with a bunch of other people, and we'd trail cattle from their summer range north of our place all the way down to the Thompson River, and maybe open 2 or 3 gates on the way up over that mountain and back down. Well, every quarter section is now sold and fenced separately, and I came up against a locked gate in a line fence that I didn't even know was there. Luckily, there were 4 splices in the wire right next to the gate, and I had my fencing plier in my saddle. So if those folks are listening, if those splices aren't quite as tight, it's because I had to get home. And that would have been 2.5 hours to double back the other way, you know. But I saw how it's changing.
It is. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
You know, the big open prairies disappearing. I guess there's still a lot down in Wyoming. Hey, you guys can go down there.
That's what I hear. Yeah, down around Sheridan and Laramie and some of those places. And
the legendary cowboy poet Badger Clark's words just seem to ring truer than ever these days in the light of what Rod and I have been talking about. His poem, The Old Cowman, was set to music by Don Edwards.
I rode across the valley range I hadn't seen for years. The trail was all so spoilt and strange, it nearly fetched the tears. I had to let 10 fences down, the fussy lanes ran wrong, and each new line would make me frown and hum this morning song. Here I'm stretching of the wire, the urban brand is on the land, I reckon I'll retire. While progress toots her greedy horn and makes her motor buzz, I thanks the Lord I wasn't born no later than I was. 'Twas good to live when all the sod, without no fence or fuss, belonged in partnership with God, Mother Nature, and to us. Where skylines bound from east to west and room to go and come, I loved my fellow man the best when he was scattered some. Closer and closer across the wire, why there's hardly played a step away to call a man a liar. Their house has locks on every door, their land is in a crate. These ain't the plains of God no more, it's only real estate. When my old soul hunts range and rest beyond the last divide, just plant me in some stretch of west, sunny, lone, and wide. Let cattle rub the tombstone round and coyotes mourn their kin. Let horses come and paw the mound, but don't you fence it in. Far while. To crowd and pinch another inch, it's all their heart's desire. The world is overstocked with men, and some will see the day when each must keep his little pen, but I'll be far away. While progress toots her greedy horn and makes her motor buzz, thanks the Lord I wasn't born no later than I was.
And that's one I love doing on stage with the Western Spirit Band, and we just might work it in next weekend at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival. Now, when I had this visit with Rod Olson, he had just finished his first session with a colt that had not even been haltered. Now, Rod worked the colt from the back of a saddle horse and had the colt saddled actually by this time. And the saddle horse he was using was another colt that he'd only put a few rides on. Now, to get on the back of the new colt for the first time, he positioned his saddle horse right next to the colt and then just gracefully vaulted from the back of his saddle horse onto the back of the colt.
When's the last time you got bucked off, or has that ever happened?
Oh, yeah. I know how to hit the ground. Yeah. Yeah, we try not to make it a habit, but I know how to hit the ground.
So was it very long ago?
Oh, let's see, it's probably been, just here today. I got a 2-year-old here, and I was riding him up through the grass just over here, and the grass is pretty tall, and there's some sawdust in the grass, and he seen that, and he took a big jump and blew up, took a couple more hops, and then flopped over on his side. So I guess that's...
Oh, my gosh.
We separated company right there. I was able to keep a hold of him, and he kept bucking a couple more jumps and flopped over again.
Darn, I wish I'd been there to see that.
Yeah. Wow. But I guess we both went down, so it wasn't just me hitting the ground. He hit the ground, too. So.
Yeah. Huh.
But, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah. And the time before that?
The time before
10 years ago somewhere.
Oh, no, that was probably just, let's see, what was it, a couple months ago, I guess. I'd had this colt for about 2 months, and the owner come over to check him out, and he'd bucked me off the first day I got him. Real quiet colt. He was about 6 years old and hadn't had much riding, but he was quiet, and some other guys rode him a little bit, so, he saddled up quiet and didn't buck or do anything, and I was just swinging my leg over him, and he honked and blew, and I stepped off of him and chased him around a little bit more, and I hit the ground. I fell on a knee, I think. And then rode him for 2 months, and he was a pretty nice colt. We were even chasing some cows on him and roping a heel-matic, and he would come along really, really good. And then the owner come to check him out, and I stepped on him, and just as soon as I sat down, I could feel something happen, and he cut loose. And I went out over the front end, and I was riding him with a roping rein. I don't know why, I never ride with a roping rein.
Yeah.
But I was able to flip that rein over his ears, land on my feet, and
still had a hold of him.
Jumped right back on, and away we went.
And he was okay.
He was okay, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So
like
it's funny. The older we get, and that used to be, kind of the thing. And even if it's a cold, frosty morning, pretty good ranch horse, and you unload from the trailer, and there's the cows. You got to just get right on and go. And you got one that's, going to be just a little bit cold-backed, and 4 or 5 jumps, and you got a big grin on your face. Okay, now we're going. But you get to be this age, and you'd just as soon you didn't have to do that. But I think if you got it in your mind that you don't want that to happen, maybe you lose a lot of what you need.
There's a few growing muscles that don't go back together as easy as they used to.
I did that this spring. Gee.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. But I've never been hurt on a horse. Yeah. Really, I've had a couple
all these years.
I've been bucked off and land on my head and just get up, shake it off, and away I go. And let's see, a few years ago I had one. He run me over. He was kind of a bad dude. As a matter of fact, we ended up bucking him, and he bucked at Calgary even. Like, he could really kick the moon. And, we saddled him up, and he run me over, and I think I landed on my spur right on my hip, and so that felt like I was riding with a pool ball in my back pocket.
Man.
But other than that, I've never really been hurt.
Well, coming up, there's more from Rod Olson, and Baxter Black is going to let us in on what the steers might be saying about the ropers. And I've got a beautiful song from another one of the fine performers who will be at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival next weekend. Then it's the Rangeland News, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at a team roper evaluation. Well, friends, thanks for listening. It'll be no surprise that I've published a beautiful new hardback book called A Commotion in Rhyme. It fits in the bunkhouse, the outhouse, the bookstore, the library, or the cookbook. Unfortunately, it won't fit in a cupcake. A commotion? Oh. Call 800-654-2550 or BaxterBlack.com. Come to think of it, it might fit in a Caesar salad. What's the difference between a 9-inch pepperoni pizza with mozzarella cheese and a team roper? Answer: the pizza can feed a family of 4. Well, it is common at the typical practice arena for ropers to get to know the behavioral traits of steers, like that one's slow or fast or drags or breaks to the left or ducks his head or sings too loud, chews with his mouth open, or can't type more than 2 words a minute. Anyway, you get what I mean. Well, I was running the rope and chute one evening, waiting for the heeler to peel his rope off the single hock while the header stayed in the saddle and kept his rope tight, which is how it's done when the dedicated ropers can't beg the wife or kids to work the stripping box. The skeeters are too bad. Oh, Dad, do we have to? Are you kidding? Stand out there in the dust while you and your buddies drink beer and tell moldy jokes. You must think I don't have better things to do. Anyway, as I stood there leaning against the rail, I heard murmurs from the alley behind me. As I tuned into the conversation, I realized it was the steers talking to one another, and they were discussing the ropers. Yeah, that one with no hat there sits on his horse like a broken jack in the box. Well, there's no telling where he'll throw his loop. One time he caught both front legs of mine and half of my head, and the lunatic went to the horn. I somersaulted, tail over tea kettle, and landed flat on my back. Thank goodness he doesn't catch very often. Whoa, now. That big guy there on the Clydesdale, he's serious as a root canal, and he can rope. But when he turns that bulldozer of a horse, you better be ready, 'cause ain't no give in the line. Hey, let me trade places with you. Ah, here's a free ride. Notice there's no black on his rope. I've never seen him catch. They let him come 'cause he always brings the beer. Ah, there's my favorite. He's left-handed and can't ever get his horse in position. You never know where the loop's coming from. It's like being whipped with a cat o' 9 tails. I guess I've always felt sorry for him. Yeah, it's pitiful sometimes. Oh, well, we should be thankful. If it wasn't for them, we'd be shoe leather and insulin shots. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
How about a weekend pass to the 23rd Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 14th to 17th, 2019. Just about the finest lineup of talent we've ever had. Michael Fleming.
On the back roads of Utah near the San Rafael, an old rough stock rider strides to the corral.
Gene Prescott.
Then he'd swing down from the saddle, and he'd take me in his arms.
Tim Huss.
The band's tuning up and they're stocking the bar. Ranchers are coming from near and far.
Special guest Lewis the Big Rig McIver, and so many more. The BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, daytime entertainment, a spectacular art and gear show, workshops on everything from songwriting to saddle making. The best place to get all the information is bcchs.com. And to order tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. Some of you who may be as old as I am might remember a singing cowboy by the name of Alberta Slim. His real name was Eric Edwards, and he had an amazing life. He actually hooked up with Mike, Mark, and Jack, the famous Rhythm Pals, on CKNW radio back in the 40s, toured all around the country with his trick horse Kitten and an elephant that could play the harmonica, and he died in British Columbia in 2005 at the age of 95. And he toured and entertained almost up until the last days of his life. Now here's where the part gets interesting. He billed himself as Alberta Slim, and one of the most beautiful songs he wrote was not about Alberta. Here it is by a guy who will be at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival next weekend, Alan Mulber.
As you follow the sunset on over the mountains, west to the ocean where the soft breezes blow, there stands the dogwood high in the tall wood of British Columbia, land that I love. Beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, rivers and valleys with the mountains above. Beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, evergreen playground, the land that I love. It's there we go sailing out on the blue ocean, the big tie salmon we fish off our shore. And Vancouver Island is just off the mainland, a picture of beauty that none can compare. Beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, rivers and valleys with the mountains above. Beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, evergreen playground, the land that I love. You'll find scenic splendor in a land of adventure, from the mighty blue Rockies to the sand by the shore, where God in His glory made a fairyland story in British Columbia, land that I love. Beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, rivers and valleys with the mountains above. Beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, evergreen playground, the land that I love. Beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, rivers and valleys with the mountains above. Beautiful, beautiful British Columbia, evergreen playground, the land that I love.
The news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says they don't call it the new NAFTA anymore. The former North American Free Trade Agreement has a new name. Here's Gary Crawford with the new name and how it's being received by Canada, the U.S., and Mexico.
The USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement.
USMCA agreement proved once again our commitment to continue promoting a fair and open trade.
This would put billions of dollars into the pockets of farmers.
It is a better agreement. I would be willing to debate that point by point with anyone.
Mexico's Ag Secretary Victor Villalobos, Canada's Ag Minister Lawrence McCauley, and U.S. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue all on stage at the Outlook Forum. And of course, the agreement is signed but has to be ratified by the legislatures of all three countries. Only Sonny Perdue would speculate on when that might happen, at least in the U.S.
I would hope certainly I'm always optimistic, by summer.
But the agreement does face some opposition by some lawmakers who say it doesn't address labor and environmental issues. Perdue telling reporters,
"We have improved this agreement in every sector, including labor."
He said he's working with Congress to answer their questions. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Well, the 50th edition of the Canadian Western Agribition will be held a little later than usual, thanks to the Canadian Football League. Regina was awarded the 2020 Grey Cup, partly at least in celebration of the Rough Riders' 110th year, pushing the agriculture show to a week later than it's normally held. The Grey Cup is set for November 22nd, and Agribition will follow November 30th to December the 5th. And I wonder, anybody remember the early days of the Rough Riders? Remember a great quarterback by the name of Glenn Dobbs, and at one time they thought of renaming Regina Dauberville. That's going way back. Speaking of agribition, in case you missed it, a 3-year-old Cremello gelding sold for $17,000 at the select horse sale there in December. His registered name is JT Racing Hickory, but he commonly is known as Vegas. Oklahoma authorities are investigating the theft of more than 100 head of cattle from a ranch near Pryor. And the owner, Debbie Ringling, says 84 cows and several calves are still missing from her pasture. Last week, she said she got a call from her son about how some missing cows were nowhere to be found, and initially she thought they were in the trees or otherwise just hiding, but then she noticed that they had disappeared through a damaged piece of fence that divides her land from the Mays County Fairgrounds. Still, no report on what became of those cows. And a senator, a Republican from Montana, has introduced a bill to require country of origin labeling for beef and pork at retail stores in Montana. The bill would require retailers to display a placard at counters differentiating between meat that falls in 3 categories. 1, meat that's born, raised, and processed in the U.S., 2, meat that is processed outside of the U.S., and 3, meat that is only processed in the U.S. The Northern Plains Resource Council is working with the Montana Cattlemen's Association and Montana's Farmers Union to reinstate COOL during their 2019 legislative session. Well, things are looking great for the 23rd Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 14th to 17th. Great lineup of talent. We hope to see you there. And here's something else that we hope we can invite you to. We are planning a special one-night concert with the Western Spirit Band along with Ben Crane and his daughter Jessica at Withrow Church near Eckville, Alberta on Wednesday, April the 24th. And you can see Ben's schedule page at bencrane.com for information on how to reserve your tickets. And then the next day, April the 25th, it's our second cruise reunion celebration at the Westerner and Red Deer with a whole bunch of folks who have been on our cruises in the past and their friends and family. For information on this, you can call 1-800-530-0131. And of course, the next day, the main event gets underway, and I'll be there for the Trainers Challenge again behind the mic. Looking forward to Rod Olson, Cade Mills, and Dale Clearwater going up against those great Ace of Clubs quarter horse colts. And let's see what else. August 16th to the 18th, we will be at the Stony Plain Cowboy Gathering. For details, see stonyplaincowboygathering.com. And then, of course, August 29th to September 14th, the 17th Annual Spirit of the West Cruise to the British Isles. The number to call again for information, 1-800-530-0131. There's regular cattle sales every Tuesday at the BC Livestock Kamloops Yards, and lots of special sales coming up at all the yards. You can get all the information at bclivestock.bc.ca, and that's where you can actually watch the sales streaming live. Meanwhile, out at the Innisfail Auction Market, Monday's calf for their pre-sort sales. On Mondays, calves are weighed the day before. And of course, there are regular cattle sales every Wednesday. Lots of special breeding stock sales coming up too. All the information is at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And now we're down to the final item, or in this case, items. I dug up some words to live by from the Rangeland News Almanac. For example, I am staying away from organic, natural, and in fact, all health foods in general. You see, at my age, I figure I need all the preservatives I can get. And it's hard to make a comeback when you haven't been anywhere. Or this one, a day without sunshine is like a day in Vancouver. And finally, the 2 most common elements on Earth are hydrogen and stupidity, but not necessarily in that order. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, how important is it to warm up your horse before you ask him to gallop, and what's the best way to do that? That's next when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. The Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File is coming up, and that's where we'll talk about the wisdom or lack of it in getting on your horse when he's just cold and hasn't been exercised at all and kicking him into a gallop? Or is there a better way? But first, we'd like you to hear this. Here's what a few folks have said about the Spirit of the West cruises.
We had a lot of fun. One of the best cruises I've been on with you.
I've already put my deposit down for the next year's cruise, so sure we'll see you again.
Yeah, it's a good crowd.
I've met excellent people, and I couldn't ask for a better trip. The people were just like family. People look out for each other's, and it's great. It's great experience.
And they're just dedicated to helping you enjoy your holiday. I think that's what I really like about cruising.
That's what makes it so nice, is that there are so many folks that are from the background, the way we were brought up on farms and ranches.
Our 2019 cruise will be something we've wanted to do for a long time. August 29th, we'll fly to Dublin, Ireland. We'll visit an Irish thoroughbred breeding farm, be hosted by the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation. Then we'll sail to some historic and beautiful places, Cork, Belfast, and then Glasgow and Inverness, Scotland. We might even get pictures of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. And we'll have stops in Paris and London. Get all the information at 1-800-530-0131. And check out our Spirit of the West cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com and our cruise Facebook page. Calling all of our cruisers from the past 17 years, I hope we can see you at our cruise reunion celebration at the Westerner in Red Deer, Alberta, Thursday, April 25th. That's the evening before the main event starts. We'll have refreshments, videos, and pictures of past cruises. The Western Spirit Band and our Cruisin' Cowboy Band members will all be there. And to our RSP, just call 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Start thinking spring with help from Canada's largest Western store. That's right, spring stock is arriving at Irvine Tack and Western Wear. See what's new and start suiting up with the latest from the biggest names in the biz. Boulay, Ariat, Wrangler, Cinch, Huey, and more. Jeans, jackets, boots, shirts, hats, hoodies, it's all here at Irvin's, exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield, or shop online at irvins.ca.
Don't just wear it, live it. Irvine Tack and Western Wear.
Well, we had 3 horses in the trailer all saddled up, and we were heading up a logging road looking for a group of cows that had strayed into a piece of range where they did not belong. And the eagle-eyed old cowboy, Jim was his name, was in the passenger seat. I was in the back seat. And Jim spotted the cows in the bush. He hollered, "Stop here, Vic!" As soon as the truck and trailer stopped, the cows took off. So Jim unloaded his horse, jumped on, spurred him into a gallop, and got around the cows. Now, that horse hadn't been ridden for a couple of weeks, and it was one that you could get away with doing that. But most of the time, if it's possible, I like to do a short pre-trip check and give that pony a chance to warm up before I'm asking for full speed up or down a hill. Now, what you see most of the time with any veteran ranch cowboy starts off the day is he'll check his mount for vertical and lateral flex. He'll step the horse's hindquarters around a time or two before he steps aboard. Now, this doesn't guarantee the horse won't try to buck, but it does reduce the odds. I like to make sure the horse is settled and standing comfortably before I pull all my weight in the stirrup. And if his front feet are close together, I'll just pull and push on the saddle horn until he moves them a little further apart and kind of squares up. And then ideally, I like to have him walk for maybe 10 minutes or so and then trot until I hear him blow his nose before I ask him for a lope. And for Irvine Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. You know, our horses sure do well on that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. And you can find out all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. Come and see the largest selection of well-broke horses in Western Canada at the 6th Annual Top Gun Horse Sale. April 13th at high noon at the Calnash Event Center, Ponoka, Alberta. You can preview the horses Friday, April 12th at 4 p.m. and they start coming through the ring Saturday, April 13th at high noon. Over 200 horses expected. Horses for ranch work, team penning, roping, trail riding, barrels, mounted, shooting, and kids' horses. Every type of horse you might be looking for, including loads of true ranch horses. Every horse will be ridden, driven, or led into the ring. Rain or shine, everything's inside. For information and to see the horses, go to TopGunHorseSales.com or call Jordan Dodds at 403-783-0246. Well, as you probably know, the charming ranch wife from Texas, Jean Prescott, has agreed to come back to the Kamloops Cowboy Festival this year. She's been a real favorite there several times, and this is one of her own compositions called Grandpa's Dream.
Grandpa, what will they do with your saddle? Who will be wearing your spurs? And who will use your old bridle when your time is done on this earth? Sometimes I think of your grandpa when looking out the window at school. Often my mind starts to wonder, what would life be without you? Who's gonna carry on? Who's gonna ride for this friend? These questions cause me to ponder. Who's gonna care for this land? Grandpa, I could sure use your old saddle. I've been thinking and I have a plan. If I could use your spurs and old bridle, I could take care of this land. Who's gonna carry on? Who's gonna ride for this friend? There is no need to wonder, Grandpa, I will take care of this land. He sat straight in his saddle and smiled at his granddaughter so strong and sweet. He found peace and comfort in knowing his life and his dreams were complete. She said, I'm gonna carry on. I'm gonna ride for this friend. Grandpa, there's no need to wonder. I will take care of this land. She said, I'm gonna carry on. Grandpa, I'm gonna ride for this friend. There is no need to wonder. I will take care of your land. Grandpa, I will take care of our land.
Well, we're sure looking forward to seeing Cade, Rod, and Dale in the Trader's Challenge at the Red Deer main event in April. And Rod was telling me that he has never had a serious injury in all his years of starting colts. However,
broke a finger playing basketball. That's the only thing I broke.
Oh gosh, yeah, that can hurt too. Oh man, I pulled my groin muscles this about late May, early June, I guess, and I got one real nice mare. I bought her at an auction as a 2-year-old, and she'd been haltered once or twice, and that was all. Those are the kind you like to get. You know, nobody's messed with them. And she could have been papered, but they didn't have the papers, but I liked her looks, and I started her as a 3-year-old, and I put a lot of miles on her, and she's good in the bush, great big circle horse, you know, making those big long circles, and sharp shot her and rode her all winter. But I sometimes forget that if I get aggressive with my spurs, that'll kind of produce a reaction. And we were moving a bunch of cows from the upper hayfield up to the pasture, and I could see them going the wrong way, and I needed movement fast, and I kind of forgot I was on this mare, and I spurred her hard, and she doesn't buck that hard. She pitched about 3 times, and same thing, hey, I got your road, now let's get the cows. Yeah. I got up from lunch after about 3 hours, and I thought, that little ride, I shouldn't be that sore. I could hardly walk. Oh man, I had just pulled him, and so I didn't ride for 3 days. And 3 days later, I'm trying out another horse, and we're moving my neighbor's cows, and this mare she was 13 years old and really, really green. And I could tell after an hour and a half I probably wasn't going to buy her. But my neighbor come down out of the bush beside us and caught her by surprise. She jumped sideways. I stayed on, but just stretched him again. And it happened the third time in about 3 days.
Man.
And Billy said, you better not ride for a while or you won't be riding all summer long.
Right.
So we went to Seattle and watched the Mariners for 4 games. It took a week and a half. I didn't ride for 3 weeks, and now they're good. I mean, it's 100% again now.
That's
but
good.
Boy, that's probably the most vulnerable thing when you're staying on.
It is, man. That takes a lot of strength to keep your legs together.
Yeah. So where would you like to see yourself in the next 25 or 30 years, Rod? Still pretty much doing the same thing, and your kids coming right along?
Yeah, I want to be able to continue on doing what I'm doing. Maybe not have to do it quite so hard, but yeah, I want to be able to ride colts when I'm 85 years old. You know,
Wow.
I want to still have enough feel, timing, and balance to be able to ride colts when I'm in my golden years.
Me too.
Yeah,
That sounds great. Well, thanks for doing this, Rod.
Yeah,
Really
appreciate
great
you.
to visit with you.
Yeah.
Coming up, it's this week's classic Song of the West, and it goes back a long ways. Then a fine piece of cowboy poetry that really fits with the song we opened up with, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Looking at this week's classic segment, the singer is Gary Lee Tolley, guy who's been around the musical block many times. He says he's 6 feet tall, which is okay for a musician, but not great for a basketball player or a jockey. He has green eyes, brown hair, when it's not gray, 5 guitars, 1 piano, 1 wife, 1 ex-wife, and he had a dog, but it died. Interesting resume. He loves the old songs of the West and does a fine job on this one, inspired by, and in fact it was the theme for the long-running series Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke trail, oh tell me of days gone by. Though alone, used to wind your way. Are the ghostly horsemen riding as they speed the eastern mail? It's up to you to see them through Gunsmoke trail. The gunsmoke now has faded from the blazing 44s. The stagecoach is rusting on the hill. The wagon wheels you used to feel will sing their songs no more. The sound of the caravan is still Gunsmoke trail. No traveler to care where you go. Sands of time are hiding your way. But if heaven never let you, you could tell a rugged tale. That's why I hate to see you fade Gunsmoke trail. The gunsmoke now has faded from the blazing 44s. The stagecoach is rusting on the hill. The wagon wheels you used to feel will sing their songs no more. The sound of the caravan is still Gunsmoke trail. No traveler to care where you go. Sands of time are hiding your way. But if heaven never let you, you could tell a rugged tale. That's why I hate to see you fade Gunsmoke trail. Gunsmoke trail.
You'd probably laugh if you're riding along with me, but so often when we have a good bunch of cows just trailing up ahead of us and my horse is working just right, I will find myself singing that song. Anyway, Mag Mawhinney is in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight today. She will be at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival, too. And if you remember the song we opened with from Ryan Fritz called Cow on a Mission, well, this one belongs in the same category, called the Dumb Cow Blues.
That Dumb Cow Blues. It was cattle moving day on the ranch, and the longhorns were loaded up first. Twisting their heads, they squeezed through the chute, followed by the calves that they'd nursed. The next load we thought would be easy. There were only a few left to haul, but one cow turned tail to the bushes, hunkered down there and started to bawl. There were 3 of us circling the tree line, and 2 stood their ground near the slough. Then who should appear in a meadow but that dumb cow without any clue? She doubled back through all of the deadfall and crashed through a spot in the fence. But her calf was corralled with the others, so her fight to escape made no sense. 3 horses were saddled for roundup, with each riding 3 different ways. But the search for that dumb cow was useless, 'cause she'd vanished in that thick wooden maze. We'd about given up on the hunt when something moved near by the corral. There, standing on the top of a knoll, was that black brazen hussy from hell. She turned heading back where she came from, galloping at a thoroughbred's pace. I ran to the fence for protection when I saw that mean look on her face. She thundered over rocks in the swampland with the cowboys hot on her trail, but she deked them all out in the brambles with a snort and a swish of her tail. The 3 cowboys alit from their saddles with nary a kind-hearted word for the cow that had cost them the daylight that they'd needed for loading the herd. It was dusk by the time that we saw her, with the calf we were using for bait. Though that dumb cow looked good as a mama, we thought she'd look best on a plate.
Well, thanks so much for making the ride this week, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And as always, thanks to our terrific support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. And a reminder that if you are looking for tractor parts, any make, any year, just see Mark's page, bctractorparts.com. Oh yeah, and the new issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine is now available. There's a great story on everyone's favorite TV show, Heartland, and so much more. Subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com. And that's about it for now. Until next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.